What's up, everybody? Liam Murphy back to talk the NFL playoffs. Currently batting 100% in my playoff bracket. Going to be talking about the games. Going to be talking about some best ball takes. Appreciate everyone being here. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this free content. So, let's just get into talking about the games. Here's the bracket I made. I also posted this on Twitter. But I had Bills over Broncos, obviously. Bills over Broncos and Ravens over Steelers. Those were the games that almost everyone had. And then the games and also Eagles over Packers. Those three games were the chalk picks for good reason. The Bills, the Ravens, the Eagles, three of the best teams in football. Where I differed from most is I had the Texans over the Chargers, and I had the Commanders over the Bucs. Both of the Commanders and the Texans were 3-point dogs. The Texans at home and the Commanders on the road. So let's talk a little bit about why, and then let's just kind of go through each game. We'll look through some of my best ball games, give some takes for the future. I forgot my water, of course. I'll have to get that at some point, but oh well. So starting with Texans Chargers, why did I pick the Texans? And it had to do with the recency bias on them, pretty much, and the quality of their roster compared to the Chargers, where this Ravens game, not even showing that to you guys, of course. Here we go. Learning how to do this. This Ravens game was incredibly fresh in people's minds to the point where nothing else that the Texans did all year mattered to them. Nothing. They got killed by the Ravens. They stink. That's how people work, right? That's fresh in their minds. I get it. Never mind that they played the Chiefs tough. Never mind that they beat the Dolphins. They beat the Jags. Never mind that they beat the Bills earlier in the season. Of course, the Texans were dealing with some injuries. But, when you look at the two teams, the Texans and the Chargers realistically had Ladd McConkey and a bunch of scrubs, right? And then also they had J.K. Dobbins was hurt, right? Like J.K. Dobbins left the last game of the season hurt. And the injury reporting on this was pretty questionable. But he didn't really play that much in that game because I think he got pretty banged up, right? So all of a sudden you have an offense that is pretty much a good O-line at parts, the tackles at least, right? Guards kind of suspect for the Chargers. You got Herbert and you got Ladd McConkey. And frankly, you're just not going to beat many good teams with that. I think the Chargers are going to be really good once they get some more receivers in the room, right? Quentin Johnston, he's a good story because he turned it around from utter bust to kind of bust, But come on. The guy's he's not a first round talent wide receiver. Will Dissly, this dude's a blocking tight end. He had a great year fantasy wise, amazingly. He's not athletic. He's not really threatening defenses. And so you put these things together, you're facing a Texans defense that is pretty good. And you have a Chargers team that's probably overperforming. Justin Herbert throws some picks and it's game over, right? Where the Texans destroyed them. And yes, the Texans lost Tank Dell, which stinks. But, you still have Nico Collins. You still have Joe Mixon in there, right? This is just kind of like who the Chargers are. 197-1. This Ladd McConkey touchdown, by the way, where he three defenders spin off him in already a blowout. Major impact on best ball because Ladd McConkey dropped 30 points. DJ Chark posted a picture of a joint in his hand and said, "I've missed you, bud." Don't know about DJ Chark's career going forward, but fun fact, he did that. And then CJ Stroud, unsurprisingly, ran more in the playoffs, as almost every single quarterback does that has any running ability, right? And that, you convert first downs doing that. It seems that really the Texans, it's going to, can they beat the Chiefs? Sure. But they're just kind of like a better version of the Chargers to me, where it's Nico and then it's whatever you want to call this group of gentlemen: Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, Cade Stover, Dalton Schultz, Robert Woods, Deontay Johnson even got in there, right? So Texans took care of business. Wasn't that surprising to me. And it's kind of wild that anytime the spread on a game is 3 points and like 85 to 90% of the public is picking a team, that's a little, for anything that was doing the FFPC challenges, the best ball where the Texans pieces were getting super cheap, that's kind of like a flashing light, like, hello, there's some good value here, game theory wise, right? So Texans took care of business. The next game, the Ravens beat up on the Steelers. Honestly, the Steelers' first half went so bad that, and where do I stand on Justin Herbert? I think Justin Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in football. You get that guy a couple more weapons, team could be legit. Like what Harbaugh did, he'd be my vote for coach of the year, turning around this Chargers team. Very impressive to me. And I think they're like this team they have today was like 25% of their vision. And, you give them a couple draft classes, free agency, and you're going to see the team the Chargers want to be. The Ravens beat up on the Steelers, but honestly, if the Steelers had been able to do anything in the first half, then maybe, because it was 21-0 at half. Steelers scored 14 in the third quarter, and it was just too much, right? It's just too much for them, where they don't have a great quarterback, right? They don't have a great offense. Their defense is significantly overrated as well for the Steelers. And you have a coach who is good, not great to me, in Tomlin, right? What's the difference between Tomlin and Dan Quinn? Dan Quinn isn't, Dan Quinn makes all the correct decisions in game management scenarios. He goes for it on fourth down. Tomlin is closer to Todd Bowles. He's closer to Vrabel, right? Great motivator of men. However, when things matter most, he gets tight. He's conservative, right? They had a fourth down on 4th and inches, and they punted. And you just have to be realistic with yourself, like Sean Payton was doing a fake punt, right? And you have to be realistic that you are a worse team and you need to gamble and take risks to actually get the upset here. You do, right? That's why I would have been for starting Justin Fields. But yeah, I mean, the Ravens defense certainly has been much better as of late. Seems like a true coin flip who will win, Bills versus Ravens. I don't think the Ravens have gone through a lot of adversity recently. So if the Bills can get up big, we'll see what it's like, because, Ravens schedule, destroyed the Browns, destroyed the Texans, destroyed the Steelers, destroyed the Giants. Okay, lost to the Eagles in a close one, beat the Chargers in a close one, lost to the Steelers, division game wackiness, barely beat the Bengals in a shootout, destroyed the Broncos. There's not many games I've seen where the Ravens have been down 14. Maybe they fumble the ball or whatever, and then they have to come back. That doesn't happen to good teams. That's part of the reason why. But even the Bills, they were down 7-0 against the Broncos. Just a little bit of adversity to work through, right? So, yeah, if the Steelers could have done anything in the first half, maybe they could have made this game close, but obviously the Ravens are just a class above the Steelers. This wasn't surprising. Russ, an okay stat line in the end. George Pickens, an okay stat line. If you didn't see George Pickens when asked, are you optimistic about the future, said, nah. Yikes, that's tough but fair. Najee Harris, 6 for 17. He's almost certainly gone. Why would you bring him back? He's just overrated. Van Jefferson got in the box. Wacky players can score. For the Ravens, Lamar, a decent day. Only needed to pass 21 times, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, big day, 26, 186, and 2. Lamar, 81 yards on the ground. And then, yeah, really no one doing it in the pass game for the Ravens. Justice Hill, probably your best advance rate piece outside of Henry and Lamar. And Rashad Bateman as well. Both scored touchdowns is the reason why. And do you want to advance? Do you want to get more pieces on your team? Well, if you think your team can reach the Super Bowl, that's why you want to be drafting the Justice Hills, the Ty Johnsons. And I think the 1/6 versus 2 out of 6 matters a lot. That brings us to Bills Broncos. So the Bills were only up 10-7 at half. They were running the ball a lot. And when you run the ball a lot, if you're not converting touchdowns, that can keep teams in the game. It ratchets up the variance. They only had like 3 possessions in the first half. Even though they were only up 10-7, it felt like they were firmly in control due to Bo Nix not really consistently passing. I think the jury's out on Bo Nix. He was impressive in many ways for his rookie year, and obviously he can develop. I also just kind of question what his ceiling is in the NFL. Keep in mind, this isn't a guy who had a terrible O-line. Broncos O-line was very good. This isn't a guy who had a bad defense. Broncos defense is very good. I would say the Broncos wide receiver core was not great, right? So they're probably going to improve that. Their running backs were also not great. They're going to improve that. But I just kind of question what Bo Nix's ceiling is overall. Fun guy in fantasy, though. He's going to run. We like that. I'll get to the pure best ball talk. So Bo, 13 for 22, 144 and 1. He was under pressure all day. May not have looked like it, but he was. I think it was the Bills' highest pressure rate of a game all season. Bo Nix, 4 for 43 on the ground. Cortland Sutton, a pretty good day. Troy Franklin, who scored a touchdown, but also did like 7 boneheaded things. So kind of explains why he doesn't see the field all that much. And then it's like Adam Troutman's got negative juice. Like, you're not beating a team like the Bills throwing to him. And then for the Broncos, it's just hard to keep a good defense together, right? The shelf life is not that long. So the Broncos really need to hit some guys next year if they're going to make a push, and they're in a tough division. The Bills, Josh Allen, pretty perfect day, 270 and 2. James Cook, big day, 23, 120 and 1. Josh Allen chipped in 46 on the ground. Ty Johnson operated as the third down back / the 1B. It seems like Ray Davis was going to get some run as well, and then he got concussed on a hit by the defender, and so not sure if he'll play next week. If he doesn't, Ty will get more work. Curtis Samuel will get some more work out in the back too. Speaking of Curtis Samuel, had his best game all season pretty much in a game that matters, 368 and 1, including a 55-yard touchdown. I think if Curtis Samuel didn't have turf toe, this would have been kind of what you would have seen. He's a different guy than Cooper and Keon in the sense that he has like lateral agility, maybe like a poor man's Lad McConkey, if you would. And yeah, like if Curtis Samuel's going to stick with the Bills and be cheap in drafts next year, I'm definitely interested, depending who the Bills add. Shakir, pretty standard 6 for 61, very consistent guy. Dalton Kincaid got a big throw in there, 3 for 47. He also was interfered with in the end zone, maybe could have had a touchdown. Dawson Knox chipped in some yards as well. It's got, this is kind of par for the course for the Bills. It's going to be a little whack-a-mole. And then Ty Johnson, that play was insane. It's 4th and 1. And you need 1 yard line. The Bills are up 6 at this point. And Josh throws a absolute rope to the end zone where Ty Johnson barely converts this to get a touchdown, and the game got out of hand from there. Then he hits Curtis Samuel deep, but this isn't new for Ty. And this is why pairing Ty with Josh was very viable, both in DFS and in best ball, where he's caught now maybe 4 20-yard plus touchdowns from Josh Allen. He is a good pass catching back, right? Matt Collins got in there a little bit. Cooper and Keon didn't do much. Keon probably could have had a touchdown if Josh had a more accurate throw. And then the Packers-Eagles game, hands up. I took a nap during the 4th quarter in this one, but yeah, I think the story of Jordan Love is that if you guys remember in the first game of the season, Jordan Love was balling out against the Eagles, and then he got hurt, and then he returned pretty quickly from that injury, and then he got hurt again in this last game. I just think Jordan Love was really never healthy this season. And to be honest with you, we're never going to have great info on that going forward. Clearly, the NFL has gone to a model where they do not share injury reporting information all that much, such as Tyreek Hill maybe breaking his wrist in training camp. And so I still believe in Jordan Love. What I saw the year before, I don't believe that guy just goes away. I think the Packers were really missing the lack of Christian Watson for as bad as the things looked the first half. They were only down 10-0, and honestly, they should have closed the gap on that. No Packer really put up a good stat line other than Josh Jacobs. Love 3 interceptions. That will catch the mainstream media. Yeah, and I think they, Christian Watson, he really opens up the field. He pulls defenders. You got to respect him deep. You don't got to respect Romeo Doubs deep. You don't really got to respect Jaden Reed deep by himself, right? Tucker Kraft deep. So no one really put up a good stat line. Only Josh Jacobs was a good advance rate piece, good fantasy score. The Eagles as well. No one really put up good, this something I said many times is for playoff best ball guys, just realize games can get wacky. Defenses can score touchdowns, right? These takeaway opportunities. Players can slide down and win games like Saquon, right? He could have had a much bigger day. And so, yeah, it might be hard to advance the Eagles, Chiefs, Eagles, Bills if you didn't get the right guys, especially in the 1 out of 6 contest. It's going to be hard to advance them. On the flip side, if you do advance them, they're very valuable if they do reach the Super Bowl because they're hard to advance, right? So it's a complicated game with this push-pull. Game is a lot less solved than people want to admit. It is more solved than regular season best ball, but what's actionable from that? Well, maybe you shouldn't draft every single Jalen Hurts team as a solo Jalen Hurts team. Maybe you shouldn't draft every single Jalen Hurts team just as a Eagles, Bills, Chiefs. Maybe you should mix in a random Charger, a random Texan. Eagles dealt with some injuries. Darius Slay left but returned. Jacoby Dean out for the year. So a lot of teams dealing with injuries. Not new. Hurts, okay day. Really no one put up a huge score quarterback-wise yet. I think Josh and Lamar put up the biggest day so far, maybe Jaden. Saquon, a decent but not great day. Dallas Goedert put up a nice scored a touchdown. Jahan Dotson trolled a touchdown, taking away from A.J. Brown and Smith. Going to be hard to advance A.J. Brown. I mean, I don't think it should be a hot take to say playoff best ball is more solved, but I don't know. Go argue with someone else if you disagree. And then we got to the game last night, which was really in my opinion, justice. Why did I pick the Commanders to beat the Bucs? Number one, I think Jaden Daniels is better than Baker Mayfield. So just like last year, I thought it was insane. People were picking Joe Flacco to beat CJ Stroud. I'm like, okay, Joe Flacco was a good story, but he was gambling last year. So yeah, Jaden Daniels, better quarterback than Mayfield. Pretty easy choice for me. Additionally, Dan Quinn, better coach than Todd Bowles. In the sense that, I would say that the Commanders having their backup kicker, who, if for people who are watching the broadcast, the reason why their kicker kept on doing this is he has OCD. He's been open about that. So that is why he did that. But yeah, they don't really trust the kicker as part of the reason they go for it on fourth down. But also, they've done this all year where, Dan Quinn is basically like Dan Campbell, just without the PR. And Todd Bowles, kept on settling for field goals when their defense is terrible, simply doesn't understand, right? Like put the ball in Baker's hand, put the ball in your offense's hand. Bucs offense was good. Their defense is not. It's that simple, right? The Commanders understood that, the Bucs did not, and the Commanders did prevail. Jaden Daniels put up a big game. The running backs were brutal. Brian Robinson's not looked good for a while. Terry McLaurin put up a big day. Diami Brown, who was certainly barely drafted. I mean, he was like 6% owned in DFS. Barely drafted in these contests for sure. He was like a hot prospect his rookie year. He was on my winning Best Ball Mania 2 team as an absolute zero. Who knows if this, I think this was just kind of random. It had been Ertz, but maybe defenses have to defend against him going forward. For those wondering why playoff best ball is almost certainly more solved than regular season best ball. I mean, number one, there's far less teams. Number two, a lot of people just understand the contest more. Like they understand, oh, I need to show up at the end with these players, right? I need to, going backwards, forwards, I need to show up with at least X players in the Super Bowl to win, right? So there's just a lot more known elements in it, from people who know what they're doing and aren't just clicking buttons. Where in regular season best ball, people would be like, no, I don't think week 17 matchups matter. I don't think this matters. I don't, no, I want 4 quarterbacks. No, 0 running back isn't viable. No, you're supposed to just advance as many teams as you can. No, drafting early is bad. When in playoff best ball, they're always like, no, drafting early is good, right? So, yeah. So that was the games. How I have the last game going is I have the Rams beating the Vikings. And the reason is because I believe in Matt Stafford more than Sam Darnold. I think Matt Stafford's a significantly better quarterback. Obviously, the game's going to be close. A bit of a wild card element is this game is being played in Arizona due to the wildfires in LA. And who knows what that does to the Rams team. I think you could look at the Bills team the year DeMar Hamlin died on the field and say, you know what? That really kind of impacted the locker room. And so if any Rams players were dealing with losing their home, friends losing homes, you know, maybe that really impacts them. Maybe they don't show up competitive. But ignoring all that and just pretending it's a football game, flip side, you could say maybe it motivates them. I don't know about that, but if they're able to just play the football game, I believe in Stafford and Puka's ability. Their defense has been pretty solid as of late, but obviously it's going to be close, right? Texans, Chargers, Commanders, Bucs, Rams, Vikings. I thought all these games were going to be pretty close coin flips. Let's look at some of my Gauntlet teams. I ended up doing 100 gauntlets, and a lot comes down to tonight. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of dead teams advancing, right? So the 2 out of 6 versus the 1 out of 6 contests, in general, 1 out of 6 contests, it's a lot more viable to mix in a Joe Mixon, a Ladd McConkey, a Nico, whatever, pair of Derrick Henry with Josh Allen, whatever weird advance rate you want to do. In 2 out of 6, in general, I want to be breaking ties towards winning the Super Bowl. I would also say drafting early. Drafting early, there might not be a Ladd McConkey in your pod, right? There probably won't be. Drafting early, anyone taking Nico Collins had to spend up for it. So there's benefits to drafting early and late, of course, but in general, I would want to reverse barbell this, where my barbell is heavy earlier if I could, on average. And there's going to be a lot of dead teams advancing, including myself. We're not going to click through the whole pods here, but we'll just click through some. So this team is a full Bills-Packers team. I mean, it could maybe get last in the finals, right? But it's not going to win having a full Bills-Packers stack. This team is obviously dead. It's solo Herbert. This team is a Goff and Texans team and a Texans Commanders team. So not sure if it's going to advance. It's barely advancing. Obviously, it's also kind of thin for either the Commanders or the Texans to actually reach the Super Bowl. But yeah, not the best team either. This team is a Texans Eagles team. So not the best either. I mean, could Texans Eagles be the Super Bowl? Sure. This is a Eagles Bills team. Eagles Bills, which is nice because I think in general it's going to be kind of hard to advance that. This was drafted early, so I got a last round pick, Ladd McConkey. I got a cheap Dallas Goedert, because remember, Dallas Goedert was on IR at this time, and it was a question, even to myself, whether he would return. It got an expensive Hopkins for whatever reason. I mean, if it is Bills, Eagles, Chiefs in the championship game, maybe that works out. Obviously, you'd want this pick to be something different. It will have 2 dead Chargers. It also has a Brian Robinson just to try to help advance next week or the week forward. It is nice that if the Commanders could beat the Lions, which, never say never, then, of course, the Eagles won't be playing the Commanders unless, I guess it depends who wins tonight's game. Actually, no, it doesn't, because the Vikings are the 5th seed and the Rams are the 4th seed. So the Eagles will be playing the Vikings or the Rams. So yeah, pairing a Commanders paired with Eagles are nice because they can meet in the championship game. So this is a nice looking team. Again, it's not a lock to advance. It's in pretty good shape though, being in first, having Ladd McConkey, and And yeah, a Super Bowl team of Smith, Shakir, Kincaid, Goddard paired with James Cook seems pretty nice. Um, let's see the draft room. I went Hurts. I went Cook. The Josh Allen drafter didn't take vengeance on me, nor did this guy go triple Eagles. The Lamar drafter not taking Derrick Henry. Don't know what he was doing. Smith, Shakir, random Hopkins, Kincaid, cheap Goddard, cheap Lad, Brian Robinson, and then paired J.K. Dobbins. This was before the Chargers had even locked up a playoff spot, but in general, a pretty good team. So this team's got a lot of legs if it can reach the Super Bowl. Obviously, it needs to be Eagles-Bills, which was probably the pairing I did the most. So that's a nice looking one. Only takes one, guys. Only takes one. Here is a Lamar versus... this was also drafted early, I think, because it got Lamar Henry, which you couldn't always get. Lamar Henry, Eagles is what it's building for. Also, Lamar. So Ravens, Eagles, Ravens, Commanders. Ravens, Commanders would be a fun Super Bowl, just Lamar versus Jaden. I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, this is nice. I didn't draft a lot of Ravens, and so it's nice to have this, having Smith and Goddard to pair with the whole Ravens offense. Who knows about Zay Flowers, but he's on the team. This team almost certainly will advance as well. Unless, everything rests on tonight. If tonight is some 35-40 game, who knows? But there's just not that many fantasy viable guys from the Rams, right? Like Puka can put up a big game. Kyron can put up a big game. But if Demarcus Robinson puts up a big game, who even has him, This one is Eagles, dead Bucs. Mostly beat Eagles, actually fully Eagles, Bills, random Nico advance rate. It is, in general, you would rather your Texans players be paired with your Bills players or Ravens players because obviously they can both meet in the AFC Championship game. So dead Bucs, not great. However, Super Bowl of Hurts, Cook, Shakir, Kincaid, Keon, not the best team though, because I got sniped on Goddard, it seems. And so it's not like the best team. Just having Hurts, no pass catcher. I think I was rooting for Bucs, Bills more for that team. Here's a Bills, dead Packers, but Bills, Eagles. This one's pretty nice if it can advance, which it's in second. So if it's in second, it's a little bit thinner. No more players to play. If it can get there, though, having Ray and Ty, Josh, the Bills offense plus A.J. Brown Smith is nice. It's going to be hard, though. Going to be hard to hold, I would think. And dead Packers, hurts you going forward, but maybe helps me get out of this round. Eagles, Commanders, / Bills and Chiefs. This one's a nice one because you got the Eagles are not part of this game plan. Looks like I got sniped on the Eagles as well. So it's really just playing the Commanders, Chiefs, Commanders, Bills. Technically, it can have a Super Bowl roster, I think, with some of these guys, but not the best looking team. I did that when you got towards the end of the contest, especially after Zay Flowers got hurt. It wasn't uncommon to get just totally sniped on all the Eagles. And so rather than just building Hurts, Goddard, I just abandoned the Eagles somewhat. Texans, Lion, Texans, Eagles. So, if the Texans can shock the world and reach the Super Bowl, it's got a dead Tank Dell. But, it's got a shot if the Texans could do it and advance. Same thing with this one. Texans, Lions, dead Chargers as well. Eagles, Texans. Not the best, right? Like, what do I want to be advancing? I want to be advancing Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Lions, Chiefs, Lions, right? I think it's going to be very hard, especially in 1 out of 6, to advance Chiefs or Lions, right? Just because it was a pretty high. First off, it was a wacky slate, and there's some players who just really separated, Derrick Henry and Ladd. But there's enough guys scoring. Terry, right? Like all these guys, a bunch of players put up a good score. Cook. So this team is Eagles, Bills, Eagles. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. It's a very funky team. It's probably going to advance. I think I was trying to do Eagles, Chiefs as well, and then got like someone probably who didn't know what they were doing took the Chiefs guys from me. So I have Pacheco. But if it can reach the Super Bowl, Goddard, Kincaid, Smith, Ty, Ray Davis, Cook, having the triple Bills running backs is certainly not going to be common. But the way the Bills play, like, could be what you need to get to the Super Bowl. Don't know if you want it actually when you get there. And if it is Eagles, Chiefs, it has most of a roster, right? If the Super Bowl is Chiefs, Lions, the winner could totally have only 4 players, Yeah, I think this is viable to soft fade Chiefs, Lions, which I was generally doing for this contest. And, if you're volume drafting these upcoming contests, you can simply get your exposure there. This one is Bills, Eagles, Bills, Vikings. So pretty nice looking team. The Ty Johnson score, obviously huge. But if it is Bills, Vikings, you got Aaron Jones and Addison. And if it is Bills, Eagles, it's Smith and Goddard. So, what you guys should be, and, it's barely advancing. It does have Vikings players still to go, though, replacing pretty low scores. My best DK team, we're not going to look at those, but it needs Addison under 10 PPR and Kupp under 10 PPR and Hawkinson under 8 PPR. So it's unlikely, but it might happen. So what you guys should be taking away from this, other than just looking at the individual teams, is there's going to be a lot of bad teams, dead teams advancing. Lions. Okay, so we do have the Lion. So a Lions-Bills Super Bowl, which is nice. Barely holding on, though. Let's see. Does this guy have players still to go? No. So I don't know. If the game can be low scoring tonight, it's a Lions-Bills, where the Super Bowl for this would be Goff, Amon-Ra, Ty Johnson, Shakir, Cooper, Keon. And then I just did random advanced rate pieces: Ladd, Dobbins, Najee. So yeah, a Lions Bills, a little bit harder to advance if that is the Super Bowl. Definitely not a lock to advance, though. Like this guy's probably got players. He's got Kyron off of a 6 and Kupp off of a 7. but he's down 10 points, so maybe. Like, where's the Vikings team? Yeah, this guy. So this is the guy that, it's like, okay, so Sam Darnold off of 0. Jefferson and Addison also off of 0s, right? Like, these are the things. Like, if you're not in first in your pod, there's going to be teams like this where it's like, this guy's probably a favorite to advance in this pod. Just like, you put in, let's just put in 20 points. That puts him at 50. Let's put in 15 for Jefferson. That puts him at 65. Let's put in 10 for Addison. That puts him at 75. Wow, which wouldn't advance, so maybe. Did I give him a full roster? Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I guess it'll be a coin flip, actually. Right? 20, 50, 15, 65, 10, 75. So, like, if the game is just kind of like average scoring, no, Aaron Jones is also competing with, it doesn't matter. Aaron Jones or Addison, 10 or under, still won't advance. So, maybe actually a slight edge to my team to advance. And this would be, like, this is just like Jaden Daniels naked, 3 Bills, Amon-Ra, Ty Johnson, Goff. So that's a nice looking one. Stroud, Eagles. Also, Dead Tank, Puka. Clearly, those were drafted early. I mean, I simply chose them to make the Super Bowl. Am I guaranteeing that? No. I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC this year, and I'm also a fan of the team, so I'm pretty happy rather than betting, $5,000 on the Bills to win the Super Bowl to do it this way. It's kind of hard though because, Lamar winning MVP. I don't care about these voting awards; they're pretty stupid. But if Lamar's MVP, why was Josh Allen 101? Why was Josh Allen chalk in the FFPC contest, right? And also, I've got all the playoffs games right so far. So, go argue with someone else. This one, let's see. Lions. Yep, it is Lions. Commanders, Rams, Bills. So what even is this? Yeah, this is a weird team. I remember I built like one team like this, not how I usually build. So it's live for Lions, Commanders, or Rams plus Bills. Because it has one Lion, one Commander, one Ram. Obviously, this is a little thin as far as winning in the end. Like if it is Bills, Rams, only having Cup, for example. If it is Bills, Lions, though, it's pretty live just because it will be hard to reach the Super Bowl with that. And it has potentially everyone advancing to next round. Bills, Commanders also would be a little thin. But it's nice to have the Lions and the Commanders playing each other, plus the Bills, because it's like if the Bills win, okay, then you're locking a championship game as well. So I like this team. This team is Eagles, Commanders, Bills, Texans, worthy one-off, seems like. Worthy must have been cheap in this draft. Yeah, which is nice. Like, if you can get a championship game of Eagles, Lions, Chiefs, or Eagles, Commanders, Chiefs, Bills, everyone will be playing. Or even better than the Chiefs would be the Texans for this team. Because it's got Mixon Nico. It's got Cook and Ray, which Ray is way less drafted than Ty. Obviously, Ty's role seems better. And Ray got concussed or whatever his injury was. So that's maybe a fun one. Texans, Eagles. So kind of thin. Chiefs. I mean, is this team going to hold? Chiefs, Eagles. Yeah, I mean this team. I did build some Chiefs, Eagles. That was probably my when I couldn't go Bills on the AFC. I would go the Chiefs. And Herbert, obviously not great. However, Ladd is a big reason why this team advances if it does. And then its Super Bowl would be Mahomes, Saquon, Worthy, Hollywood, Goddard. We'll have Dead, Kraft, Reed, McConkey, Jacobs, though, regardless. So potentially, years past, I've not had a lot of Chiefs because they're expensive, but they were cheap this year. Texans, Eagles, Texans, Rams. So we'll see there. Eagles, Bills. This is a pretty nice looking team because I went full Eagles, Bills. It is in first as well, which depending when you were drafting, like the early drafted teams barely have Rams players in them. Just because people weren't sure if the Rams were making the playoffs then. So unless you took them to end your draft, they weren't in your pod. So early drafted teams really only need to fade the Vikings players going tonight. Late drafted teams, which we'll check. So this is a late drafted one. Need to fade both the Vikings and the Rams. But this is nice because it's got a ton of players for Bills, Eagles. It has Nico as an advance rate piece, and he's advancing as well. So if it can advance, it will have a full roster for next week, which is obviously what you want. And it's got Cook as your good running back, and then whatever Gainwell, Ty, and Ray can give you as your prayer. Did Gainwell even score any points this week? Yeah, no, not really. 1.4 points. And let's see. This guy, dead love. He does have Puka and Cup, though. So this guy's probably going to pass me, unfortunately. And then it's the real question is who's got the Vikings guys? No, won't pass me. So this guy, and it's nice that the Josh Allen drafter has Sam Darnold. He's got dead Falcons as well. So he's got Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson and Cam Akers. So he's got a flex. Let's give Jefferson 15, which is a high score for half point. That would put him at 72. And then he's got Addison and Hawkinson / Akers off of a 6 and off of a 9. So going to be a coin flip whether I out advance that team with me having no more players left. But it's a really good team if it does advance. Buffalo, Green Bay, obviously not the best team, but had to have some. Eagles. Hurts was my most drafted quarterback, by the way, just because he was the one you could get most likely. Eagles, Bills, Eagles, Texans. This one's almost a lock to advance, having both Ladd and Nico. And it's advancing AJ Brown, which is nice. Kind of wish Ray Davis was Ty Johnson, right, for this team. But it's got Mixon playing next week. It's also live for Eagles, Texans. Eagles, Bills, Eagles, Texans. But, in the obviously Ty scored well this week, but hey, in the Super Bowl, Gainwell falls in the end zone, Ray Davis falls in the end zone. There you go. Lions, Bills, Lions, Texans. This is a nice one just because it's going to be hard to, like, if the Super Bowl is Lions, Bills, Goff, Gibbs plus Bills players, kind of unique. Obviously, Lions, Texans gives me more players as well. Not sure if it will advance with it barely advancing right now, but if it does, it's just hard to get the Lions team to advance and have a lot of Lions players. So I like that one. Bunch of these teams are going to get knocked out. And other teams I don't have advancing are also going to advance. Although I do have a lot less Vikings players, and I have an average amount of Rams players. Texans, Lions. Yeah, not the best team. Bills, Eagles with some dead Packers, which didn't help me advance this round either. Not sure if that one will advance barely. Like every team in second without players to go, very hard. Chiefs. So this is my Chiefs Lions, it looks like, if it can hold, which is obviously the Super Bowl most people think is going to happen. I think the Eagles are a better team than the Lions, but we'll see. Because it would have Mahomes, Gibbs, Worthy, Laporta, Hollywood. It's also live for Commanders, Chiefs. So yeah, would love for this team to get it. Let's see. This guy has Akers and Cup. So yeah, need some help there. So don't think it will advance, but if it could, it's nice. Ravens, Eagles. Like a not great Ravens Eagles Super Bowl with Zay Flowers maybe not even playing, tons of dead players. Eagles, Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, and Joe Mixon is on the team as well. Although, yeah, much better team for Eagles Chiefs if it can advance because it's got Pacheco, Kelsey, Worthy, Goddard, AJ Brown. Eagles Bills, it's only got Ty Shakir from the Bills side. And it's barely advancing. This is the Wizard who wasn't building. He's, in the terms of the advance rate stuff, he was one of the highest advance rates in the regular season. But as you can see from his teams, he wasn't building teams that could win the contest at all at max volume. So that kind of tells you about the guys who try to advance 100% of their teams in BBM, right? Because there is no Super Bowl here. He does have Jefferson and Puka, though, so he's going to advance out of this round and then lose. Hurts. So not Eagles. This is Vikings, Bills. So this team should, and also Vikings, Texans. Yeah. Vikings, Texans, which is probably a rare Super Bowl, right? Like the rarest Super Bowls that weren't being built was like Vikings, Texans, Rams, Texans, from advancing teams, that is. Commanders, Texans. Yeah, like those would be the rarest teams as far as people weren't really building those. So if they, if by some miracle it is the Super Bowl, you're competing against so few teams. This team will advance, probably. It's already in second, and it's got everyone still to play. Let's see. Nope. I think I tried to set up a Goff thing, or I lost internet connection. I don't know. Eagles, Bills, Eagles, Texans. Simply choosing the Texans over the Chargers was big for me. Like, Goddard's not even hitting this lineup, and he scored well. This team's going to advance, so. Also has a Commander one-off piece in there. And who knows? Maybe Goff hits the lineup. Go Birds, baby. Texans, Lions. With dead Bucs players. Dead team. Bucs something. Eagles, Bills, Commanders, Bills. But as you can see, these teams later in the contest were just on average worse because it's Hurts. My only Eagle is Goddard because obviously the guy, probably Josh Allen drafter and the Lamar drafter took A.J. Brown and Smith. Does have Shakir, Cooper, Mac Hollins, Cook. And it's more live for Commanders Bills because it's got Brian Robinson, Terry Ertz. I think this is a good way to like build in general where you choose an AFC team or an NFC team and then you double NFC. This team will advance a full team, assuming it advances. So that is my advancing teams. I'm going to lose quite a bit of teams. I might gain some too. Not really sure. This team is a bummer because I drafted with Davis and I floated the idea of doing Ladd McConkey in the last round. He's like, nah, let's do Ray Davis. So probably should have just overruled him there. Would have been a nice Eagles, Bills, Eagles, Chiefs team. Because what you add 30, 94. Yeah, we probably would have advanced. Some of these thirds, do they have chances? Probably not, many of them. So in general, you definitely want to be seeing teams with Ladd McConkey in your pods next week, Herbert in your pods, Bucky, Mike Evans. All these guys are going to advance at a decent rate and are dead. Josh Jacobs, you want to see. You want to see teams that also have, like not full Super Bowl rosters. Although I guess they could advance if they can field a full team. Anyone advancing dead players is preferable. Pod luck's going to be a huge thing. You could be, you could have a live team next week. And no one else in your pod does, right? Because the pod sizes go for the Gauntlet. Different for different pods. Top 2 advance. 30,000 entries into 3,000 10-person groups. So you got 10-person groups. 1 out of 10 advances. You got 10-person groups again. 1 person advances. So it's 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10. 300 people in the final. Min cash. $1,000. 200 grand to first. So yeah, obviously, a 1 out of 3 advancing versus 1 out of 10 is a big step up. However, people are going to be advancing dead teams, which makes things easier. Other people are going to be advancing juggernauts. Really depends. I got the Rams winning tonight. Let's check in on the how the implied totals moved. Vikings are at 2.5, so that's moved a little bit from where I pulled the lines. I'm sure the wildfires played a little bit of a role in there. I don't think. Let's get a draft in or two. Aren't there usually like primetime contests for this? Maybe they didn't do that with the wild card. Guess there's not. I definitely wouldn't say it's a lock, right? Like keys to winning is I think the Rams D line needs to get pressure on Darnold. I think the Rams offense needs to be good / great, right? Especially Puka and Stafford. On the Viking side, same thing. I think the defense needs to force some turnovers against the Rams. And yeah, it should be a good game in general. Wild card weekend was okay, right? Like Packers Eagles game was a stinker, which was unfortunate. Definitely not. If you knew you could profit off min cash every draft season but never win, would you do it? No. No. I mean, sure. Like if you knew you could just click a button and make money, would I do it? And I don't spend any time? Yes. Would you don't really you don't really even make anything though. Right? I think a min cash in the Gauntlet is your money back. So you don't profit, you just get your money back. Right, we can look at that actually. If I could navigate the site. There we go. Why is it doing this? I don't know. No, you don't get 2 times your money for a min cash. I wish they did it that way because people would play even worse. An entrant was, I think it was $25. Help me out, guys. How much was it to enter the Gauntlet? I think it was 25. So you actually lose $5 for a min cash. Yeah, you lose. So drafting to advance is drafting to give $5 away plus the rate. So give away $7.50. So yeah, I mean, that's like the basic math of the contest, if you would. If you get knocked out in the next round, you make $15, right? Obviously, you want to make the finals and then actually win, right? And the reason why they do this, if you're confused, like why don't I get $50? Well, if you're going to pay 30,000 people $50, that's not a tournament. That's like a cash game because you're not going to be able to pay 200 grand to first, which is why people play this contest in the first place. If you want to play cash games where you're just trying to, draft the highest scoring team out of 6 people, there are cash games for that, You can go drafts, NFL, and like these are cash games right now, right? All of these right here. So if you want to go grind cash games, right? Like in the $25 2-person, it's just you against someone else. If you win, you profit $20. The site takes $5. Disagree. I don't like $5 times 30,000 is 150K. So where are you taking that money from? I think doing a slight loss makes the most sense. That money would come from the finals. So now you don't get $1,000 for reaching the finals. You should understand if you're playing tournaments and you don't reach the finals, you're not winning money, right? You're not. And if you want to get your money back, hello, these are all here. Draft these cash games to your heart desire, right? You can put me up here. You can go draft 1,000 $3 drafts and try to grind it off, right? Here, let's do one. Who's in these? I want to know. I've never done one of these. One more person for the $5 3-man. Looks like there are no positions. That when the players are all pink, it's just draft to your heart's desire. I mean, clearly, if you don't get Puka or Jefferson, it feels like you're donating. It is interesting that Puka has the highest ADP in this, yet in the wild card weekend contest, Jefferson had a higher ADP. That's a frame of thought, David. I mean, the truth is, if the Eagles don't reach the Super Bowl, no. If they do, yes. So you can't really answer with incomplete information. It certainly feels great to get A.J. Brown through, though. Especially because Hurts didn't score that well either. All right, guys, we're grinding our dicks off right now, trying to turn this $5 into, I think, $13.50. Do you think they're afraid of my badge? Maybe they're colluding against me. Don't even know how they would do that. There's no why collusion is impossible in this unless they were just like sending each other money. There are no positions, so you just draft the highest scoring players. Yeah, why not? Stafford, right? Cash game strategy. You wanna, equal yourself out here. Looks like you only draft 4 players in this. I could see myself in another life drafting like, oh, they got the field goal kickers in this? Wow. I didn't know that. Well, we're going Cup just because we're only doing one, but I do think the better pick is Will Reichard, who went. Was this the Rams kicker? Yeah, sure. Jefferson, Stafford Cup, Rams kicker, I think. In another life, I could see myself doing like 1,000 of these. Just getting everything in there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, if you're curious how I see the rest of the playoffs, we are a perfect 5 out of 5 right now. I got the Rams. Then I got the Bills over the Ravens, the Chiefs over the Texans, the Lions over the Commanders, the Eagles over the Rams. And, I do think everybody can win in these games. Texans are the least likely to win. Then it's kind of a toss-up to me between Commanders / Rams / Vikings. But with the Lions' defensive issues, I could see Jaden Daniels being special. I also just kind of see the Lions scoring a touchdown on every drive, so it's hard. I got the Eagles over the Lions, obviously hard. The Bills over the Chiefs. Bills, Eagles, Super Bowl. We're going Bills there, but I think Bills, Eagles, Bills, Lions would be fun. The Chiefs, man, much easier Super Bowl schedule for them. Not only do they get the bye, but they don't have to play Baltimore or Buffalo. That game should be whoever, if Bills/Ravens, whoever wins that game, and if they reach the Super Bowl, whew, they deserve it, right? They deserve it. Do 1,000? No, I'm not going to do $1,000 cash game. No, thank you. If you get the third pick, you're pretty dead, but whatever. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we got right now. I'll be live tomorrow, recapping how it finished up. Underdog should, and DraftKings and drafters as well, they should have their playoff contest drop sometime tonight. So I'll have more strategy articles and videos on my site, beatbestball.com. $100 for a year. Sign up if you're going to be doing the big board. I will have my big board rankings the week that drops as well. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the playoff game tonight. Peace out.